I'm Sally, and I'm here to talk about mountain bike gloves that I have owned. So first of all, I've got this Garneau winter pair. I'll talk a little bit about those. Got this, my newest pair, Sombrio, $14.99 Canadian at Mountain Equipment Co-op. These are my newest gloves. Got this pair of Husky work gloves that I believe come from Costco or maybe Canadian Tire. And then I've got this pair of Dakine gloves. So let me start with the winter ones. I get to ride year round, but it does get a bit chilly. These are amazing. They weren't expensive. I ordered them online. They have Thinsulate in them, and I swear by Thinsulate. I think it's the best thing that you can have in gloves. They're comfortable. I actually find they fit quite well, and I have pretty good control, or at least better than I would if my hands were freezing cold, because, you know, that doesn't give you very good control over your brakes. They're a little bit wide in the top. They do have an adjustment, but, you know, obviously they're not as form-fitting as regular gloves. These would be great for cycle commuting too, but I do think these work well for winter mountain biking. They're not waterproof, so they do absorb some water, but I do find that the Thinsulate works pretty well even when it gets wet. Okay. Next pair, these Dakine gloves. I do not know what they are called, but these are apparently a men's size large, which is weird because I don't have massive hands and all of the rest of my gloves tend to be a unisex medium. So if you're buying these style of Dakine gloves, whatever they are, they're going to be smaller than you think. Now, that being said, these are a touch too big for me. I think they may be stretched out a little bit over time. I would say they fit well, except for once I'm gripping around the handlebar, then I get just a teensy bit of give at the end, and that can be a little problematic. You don't want to have your control over the brakes interfered with there. That did lead me partly to a little bit of a crash recently. And for that reason, I switched to a new pair of gloves. But these are nice. They're not overly warm or overly cool. They have a touch screen thing on them. Pretty good for generally year-round riding, I would say, except for in the dead of winter. So I switched to these Sombrio gloves because I wanted some that fit me really, really closely, like a glove, you could say. These are a really good deal at Mountain Equipment Co-op right now. Their standard price, $14.99. They are, I would say, they're summer gloves. They're very thin. That's my fingernail there. Basically mesh at the fingers, so you would not want to wear these on a cold winter day. I think the ends of your fingers would get really cold. They do have these fun little things on them. And they do kind of work as a touchscreen sensor. These fit me really, really well. I believe they're unisex and they are size medium. So if you're a guy, you probably need a size large at least. And only if you have really small hands, I think, would you need a size small. But yes, no adjustment around the wrist, but for a bit of protection and a little bit of warmth, these are great. I did notice one of them started to rip a tiny bit on the finger when I was a little bit hard on it this weekend. So I'm sure that they're not going to last forever, but for $14.99, like, this is a good bet. And then finally, my dad swears by these work gloves. So these would provide really good protection from, you know, if you're punching trees along the way accidentally, or you have a crash, like these would be really great protection. They have sort of like the grip if you're, I don't know, doing some trail maintenance along the way or something. They have padding, so good for long rides. I have worn these a few times, but they have a lot of seams inside. They're not meant for mountain biking, they're meant for doing work. So the control over your brakes might not be as great as if you're wearing a pair of mountain bike specific gloves where there's minimal sort of fabric and seams and stuff like that inside of the fingers. But that being said, I've worn these many times, and they would actually be fine, except for the fact that they're slightly too big for me. I believe they're one size fits all, is my guess. And when I'm gripping the handlebar, I do get that bit of extra fabric at the end, and because there's so much extra seams and so forth inside, it just doesn't really give me the best sense of control. But these are pretty good for if it's a little bit colder, or if I needed to, have that extra protection because I was doing some trail maintenance or something along the way. These would be pretty ideal. My dad swears by them. He's been mountain biking for decades, and this is what he wears. So I guess your last option is just to not wear any gloves. That seems to be the thing these days. Personally, I find myself scraping my hands because I have some wider handlebars than what I'm used to, and also if you fall and you scrape your hands, it's really painful and it's really inconvenient for life generally. If every time you're opening or closing your hand or using your hands or washing your dishes that you have scrapes or scabs on your hands. Personally, I don't really think it's worth it. I just feel a lot more confident and comfortable with a pair of gloves on. And of course, I live in BC where it's cold and wet a lot. So those are just that's my 2 cents. I'm not an expert, but if you're starting out mountain biking, definitely I recommend buying a pair of gloves, or else you will fall and scrape your hands and regret it. And those are options that I would consider. I would say the $14.99 Mountain Equipment Co-op gloves are best, especially if you can get in and find the perfect size for you. Those would be great gloves to start out with, especially for warmer weather riding. So see you out there. Have fun.